Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. My name is Lorraine Creech, Head of Nursing at Mesothelioma UK, and we're continuing with this series of interviews, which we hope the whole mesothelioma community are finding useful and interesting and entertaining in some ways. I'm very grateful today to be joined by Phyllis Craig, who is the Senior Welfare Rights Officer and Director at Action on Asbestos. Thanks for joining me, Phyllis.
Oh, good morning. It's lovely to be here, and thanks for asking me to be here.
Not at all. Thank you for giving up your time, and I'm sure you know, our conversation will be interesting and helpful to people today. So thank you very much for that. Just to start off then, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Action on Asbestos?
Okay. Action on Asbestos was previously known as Clydeside Action on Asbestos, and it was established in 1984 by men who had an asbestos condition. The reason it was called Clydeside is because these men all worked on the Clydeside in the shipyards and so forth, and they decided to get together to become a unit so that they could help other people who had been diagnosed with an asbestos condition, because they too had been diagnosed with an asbestos condition. Sadly, there's none of them left anymore. These men all died from an asbestos condition, but their legacy lives on. So that's how initially it got started. They wanted to help other people and to make sure that everything that they were doing could make progress for the future and help eradicate mesothelioma and all other asbestos conditions. I joined in 1995 after having left university, and the reason that I joined there was because in my third year of uni, I was told I was to pick up an option, and the option was environmental law. And so when I was told my subject was asbestos, I didn't know anything about asbestos. And I came to then what was Clydeside Action on Asbestos, and the men were fantastic. But I did notice it was the sort of Cinderella charity of all the sort of charities that were more well known. And so I thought, I'm always going to work for a charity or a community. So I went to do some work in Castlemilk Law Centre, only for 6 months, and then a job came up at Clydeside Action on Asbestos, and I got that job, and I'm now here 25 years.
Well, that's really interesting. And it's interesting to see how you were steered into it from university, really.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about asbestos, but your eyes are opened. Your eyes are open to this particular clientele, people with mesothelioma, people who have an asbestos condition through no fault of their own. And still they had barriers placed in their way throughout their progress of either trying to get benefits or trying to pursue civil compensation. It's been horrendous for them, and there's no need for that.
Yeah, I can just see from what you're saying how I mirror that to me in a clinical role about what it is and why it is that brings you in to want to work with people with asbestos related conditions and for me mesothelioma, because it's that same sort of feeling about how you can help and be of purpose to people, isn't it?
I think so. I think that you don't get that opportunity. When I worked in the law centre, it was very, very different. These were problems that could be solved, and people were wanting to solve them. But when you met people with mesothelioma, you felt a bit helpless, because although you could get them money, that wasn't what you wanted to be able to do for them. And knowing that it's a preventable condition made it so much more difficult to see some people who were leaving children because they're not all old people. And you thought it's very, very unfair. People are being allowed to expose people to a substance which is killing them, and nothing's getting done about that.
How emotive and powerful it is, you know, to hear you say that. So how many people work at Action on Asbestos now?
So we have about 5 benefits advisors. We have people that do IT. We have, I always involve the cleaners as well. They're fantastic. We have, I'm trying to work out how many we actually have. We have great directors. We have people, accountant, who is absolutely scrupulous when it comes to doing anything. So, and a lot of our people are volunteers. They're people who have an asbestos condition, or they are sons and daughters of people who have passed away from mesothelioma. So we have a network of people which is growing, and this you know sort of helps us be able to do what we can for these people with mesothelioma and with other asbestos conditions. So there's a bunch of us in this particular office. There's about 8 or 9 people, and we're recruiting another 2 people. So yeah, we're doing quite well.
Because you provide services through a service throughout Scotland. Well, services throughout Scotland.
Yeah, initially it started with people from Glasgow, and from there we were asked from different parts of Scotland if we would do something for them. So we started in Edinburgh, in Greenock, in South Lanarkshire, in Aberdeen, in Inverness. And now we have outreach clinics in all of these places. We host monthly support groups in all of these places. And apart from COVID, these groups reduce the isolation of people with mesothelioma and with other asbestos related conditions. So they're not all doom and gloom. We have people who come along and they meet people who they've actually been their apprentice, or they've worked with people and they haven't seen them for 40 years. Or we have people, we have Christmas parties, we have invited guest speakers. We usually have the nurse come along and she'll tell them about their condition and answer any questions that they've forgotten to ask when they went to the respiratory appointment. So they are getting a lot more from the guest speakers in terms of being in a relaxed atmosphere and being able to ask these questions. And sometimes the nurses will do breathing exercises with them, or we'll have the local council bring in their care and repair team. So it's demand led. So whatever the people want, we will do for them and bring in that particular guest speaker.
That facilitation, isn't it?
Yeah.
So sorry, Phyllis, go on.
No, so it works well for them, and we feel as though we're putting something in. It's like needs that they have, and so we're trying to sort of accommodate those needs. And although we are not always equipped, because we are not medically qualified to do some of the things, we always ask the local hospital, the mesothelioma nurse, and if there isn't a mesothelioma nurse in that hospital, the specialist lung cancer nurse will come along.
And you've obviously, in that time since you started in your role and with the developments you've just spoken about, seen these services and developments go, which must be tremendous. And you've been a tremendous advocate and lobbied government, and you know, about those experiences.
Well, many people wouldn't put it that way. Many people would say I was a thorn that they couldn't get rid of. And that's okay, because really all of us, people at Meso UK, people in here, we're all a voice for a community who weren't being heard. And so we have to be that voice. And so when we were trying to we've had lots of legislation changed or enacted for people who have mesothelioma or who have some other asbestos condition. And so what we do is we will fight those injustices. And sometimes people will see you as a thorn in their flesh, um, but we won't go away, and we will stand up and we will be that voice. So these are the sort of things that when we combine our efforts with other groups, with Meso UK, with the Scottish network, it gives you a stronger stance for people who are suffering through no fault of their own. And it means that we are going to be standing there. And I think that the Parliament know it. And I think that the people that we come up against know it, that we're not going to be somebody who's sitting back and allowing this to happen anymore. So although your words were very complimentary, I don't think everyone sees me like that.
Mm. I think the first time I met you was at an all-parliamentary debate in the Scottish Parliament when Kevin Blythe, obviously respiratory physician in Glasgow, and Julie Roberts started to work and assist alongside people like yourself about how to develop Scottish mesothelioma network and improve things. And since that time, all working together, the developments have been amazing.
It's phenomenal, actually. After that meeting, because Julie lost people with mesothelioma, which was horrendous for her and her family. So she knew firsthand what that was like and wanted to bring it to people's attention. Professor Kevin Blythe is, I mean, he's just been absolutely fantastic when it comes to caring, sharing, and wanting to do something. We have always thought originally that he must have had somebody in his life who had mesothelioma because he's passionate about it and he wants to make a difference. And that's the big thing for us, making a difference for the people. It's not about ego, and it's not about people saying, oh, well, we did this or we did that. Any of our publications or anything, we don't put our names to it. It just goes in the name of the charity, because it's always for us about the people you're trying to actually help. My friend died from mesothelioma, and she was a GP, and she was in her 40s, and she left 3 children. Now, that's horrendous. And now it's just the same for other people. So bringing all of us together has made such a difference, because that voice has really got stronger. And for everybody out there, it's a matter of the more people who join us, the more people who stand up and say, we're not taking this. You know, we want whatever's right for the people with mesothelioma. Then that's the way we'll get it. So it's been absolutely fantastic to see this network grow and to see people joining forces and making people and showing people that we're not going away. We're standing here, and we're going to fight for the rights of these people.
I think you're exactly right. And we should say that people can look on your website, and they can look on the Scottish Mesothelioma Network website, and also Mesothelioma UK website to gain more information. I'm just thinking, as you're talking about Julie Roberts then, and how she emotively and so effectively can talk about the experiences of losing, her father and her uncle and others to mesothelioma. And also, we talk about people like Professor Kevin Blythe. And I think when you've worked in healthcare for many years, even if you haven't, and I don't know whether this is the case, even if you haven't had that personal family experience, you care for people and you look after people, and you can't help to take on board what have been their issues, because it shapes you as a professional going forward, which is what you're saying about your work, and also knowing people like your friend who was a GP. And when Kevin has given presentations, it's always hit me that he can talk about where he was brought up, where he lived, and the close proximity to the shipyards, and So we're all shaped by our history and our background and the people that we come across on our life's journeys, aren't we? It's so important for that. And Action on Asbestos has been so helpful working with other charities. For instance, how you've worked with the Scottish Network, but also you've been very supportive to Mesothelioma UK. So I'm glad and I'm very grateful for that as a head of nursing, just to see what you've been able to do to support Mesothelioma UK.
I think that both charities complement one another. I think that we're not medically qualified, but we can do all the benefits advice, we can give legal advice and so forth. We have complemented each other in a way that makes you stronger for the people, because that's what it's supposed to be about. And I'm so pleased that we have teamed up with Mesothelioma UK and we've become partners, because we want to do more. We had thought to ourselves, we had gained some finance and we wanted to put it into a place that was going to help our clients. And the biggest place for us was going to be either Mesothelioma UK or directly to the NHS Trust for people with an asbestos condition. So I know that we have just put together the sponsorship of the lovely Lynn Hunter in Edinburgh Western General, and she is like a stick of dynamite. She's fantastic, so she is, and she's learning, and she's so passionate about what she does that it's brilliant. We want to sit down with Meso UK again, and I mean, I think things were prevented because of COVID, or things are more things would have taken place, and there would have been more progression of combined efforts in terms of funding Meso UK, maybe another nurse or whatever. But we want to do that now because the light is there at the end of the tunnel after COVID, or I'm just being optimistic. But I want to be able to sit down with Liz Darlison, yourself, Faye, and so forth, and be able to sit there and say, look, let's make out a plan of action here where we can support you. Where do you need it? And how can we do that? So we really do want to bring everything like that together as well. We've given funding for medical equipment as well, so that the people can see people with mesothelioma and use the right type of equipment and so forth. We also part sponsor the leading nurse for Scotland as well, who is absolutely lovely. So, you know, we want to be able to pool our resources together to make it a better place and better treatment options and better everything for those with mesothelioma, because it's so unfair.
And the nurses, as you know, work on this hub and spoke system. So we've now got 7 nurses in Scotland, which is absolutely amazing. And hopefully that people with mesothelioma in Scotland are really feeling the benefit of that, and having somewhere where they can go to alongside yourselves for support, clinical advice, and also developing, you know, support groups, which you very, very eloquently explain to us, and just how we can do whatever it takes to improve the care and the support and the journey for people with mesothelioma, and obviously the clinical trials that have opened up. So the more we can work together, hopefully, you know, with everything that Action on Asbestos is doing, the more we can help people with mesothelioma in whatever their needs may be. So what are your aspirations for the future? You probably just touched on those, but mainly I suppose for people with mesothelioma and asbestos related diseases.
Well, definitely to work in partnership with Mesothelioma UK more, and to develop a plan that will assist more people with mesothelioma. That's a definite. But I would also like to get more involved with trying to eradicate asbestos, so that the people in schools and so forth, there's more and more people being diagnosed with mesothelioma. So we need to get rid of this. We need a phased program of removal so that in our public buildings people can come and go and not end up with mesothelioma 20, 30 years later. We don't want our grandchildren coming to a memorial 30 years later saying we're still mourning and we're still remembering these people who died from mesothelioma through no fault of their own. We need to put a stop to that, and we need to be able to say, no, we want in 30 years' time the school children to be able to go into schools, to be able to go into any public building, because the asbestos has been removed. And I think that that's what I see as the future, because our children are the future. And if we don't start now to do something about that, then we will be standing at memorials in 20 or 30 years' time, because people will still be diagnosed with this horrendous condition.
So the awareness and the management and the removal of asbestos is the critical point, isn't it, really? And then also, of course, that what we can offer patients and carers and clients, whatever they are to us, meets their needs.
Yeah. I think, I think it's just one of these things where people still don't realise that they're being exposed to asbestos, because people are under the mistaken belief that it's a thing of the past, that it was only the shipyard workers, it wasn't people in schools, it wasn't firemen, it wasn't policemen. And we're seeing more cases like that. And we're certainly seeing a lot more women. And people are under this mistaken belief again that women only got it through washing their husband's overalls. Women have always worked. We need to get away from that myth that it must have been someone else. And I can tell you a story about this. I had a lady who came in and she was diagnosed with mesothelioma. She was 52, and her husband did work in the shipyards and he did have pleural plaques. So she was told that her condition was caused through her husband's overalls. So once we started speaking and looking at our benefits and looking at different things, I was taking her work history, and nobody had ever asked her, were you exposed? She worked for Cape Asbestos factory as a cleaner for 10 years. But it was detrimental in the pursuit of her civil damages because it was recorded as being her husband's overalls. So the other side argue, you must have told that person. But she didn't. She didn't know anything about mesothelioma. So we want to raise more awareness of the women. And I think Meso UK can do that as well, because it's something that is happening, it's current, and we're seeing it more and more.
And it's so important, it just highlights the importance of seeing a specialist, legal advisor, solicitor, legal firm who are used to dealing, have the expertise of dealing with people with mesothelioma, to take that forward, and the importance of a history taking both at clinical level.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't know what it said. You may know what it said in that lady's notes when she was seen by a medical clinician, or whether it was actually picked up then or not.
Yeah. I think that's where bringing together people who work in this particular field can always make a difference, because if we share our knowledge is no use unless it's shared. And if we share our knowledge and combine our efforts, then the only people who are going to benefit from that is the people with mesothelioma. We're all human beings. I get fed up with people bickering and arguing about, oh, we do this. This is not about us. This has really got to be about the people you're serving. And you're in that position that you're in to serve people. That's why we keep out of things. We think, oh no, we just want to be able to do what we can to help people. And nobody's fault is. We've been brought together and had the opportunity to work with Meso UK, and it's been phenomenal. because we see the difference it's going to make to our clients, and that's what matters.
Phyllis, thank you for giving your time up today. I know that this interview will be really appreciated by many people who watch it, and we do get many viewers, because obviously that if they can watch it, you know, at the time, and it will go out to social media. But I know, I can tell from just listening to your passion and your expertise, I know that this interview will be of interest to people. So thank you so much for giving your time.
Oh no, thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I just hope that it was okay, because sometimes we're not interviewers and we're not interviewees, and it's very difficult. So I hope it was okay for the people. People can come to us, you know, and just, if they need any help, we're here, and everything's free of charge.
Well, thank you very much, and it's been lovely to speak to you today.
It's been lovely to speak to you, Lorraine. Thank you ever so much.
Bye bye for now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.